well, depending on certain scenarios, whether or not people will come out because of rain or their own personal time. This is supposed to be a relatively impromptu practice. I kind of set it up middle of last week. So who knows? People might show up and come out and fight me under here because there is a little bit of rain. Nothing terrible though, or they might not. Either way, that's their choice. But I figured, regardless of whether or not anybody shows up to come out and fight, I figured I might as well do some demonstrations with the buckler and a short sword. Starting with the disclaimer, I'm not attempting to play any high level of knowledge over the manuscripts of how they're taught, and this is not supposed to be interpretations. This is just a look at how I use it and how I see it being used, and things that I believe that work based on my experience doing them. So with that being said, take everything I say with a grain of salt. If you have an instructor, consult him first. Don't get a person of knowledge. But yeah, so first couple things first. We need to remember that the sword and the buckler do not work in separate realms from each other. Yes, I can use the sword to strike without bringing my buckler out to cover, and I can use my buckler to cover without following it with a strike. However, even though that's good and that works, both of those options kind of leave you exposed in different ways. If you reach out to strike, I'm leaving my arm and everything covered, even though I might be covering my head, and you might not be able to just get around my sword. I'm still leaving a lot of this out here. And same thing here, because I'm not throwing this into conjunction, and they're not having to block. Block while I'm blocking from the shot. I'm allowing myself to be more open than if I was to do this. So we need to remember that when we strike, whether or not we're nearing an incoming strike ourselves, or we have the open to just throw a shot out, we need to at least try to make an initial cover. Something that I see a lot of is people kind of sit here rested well within range with their opponent, well within striking range of them, and they kind of sit here and try to throw blocks this way. That's not really a good idea. You need to have everything out. This is Buckler 101 kind of stuff. When even if I'm standing straight and I'm not moving forward, here I don't have to move a lot to block any shots that are going to come in on me, whether it's to my head, to my lower body, to my left side, to my right side. From here, if I can get comfortable in a slightly rested position, then I have a better chance of blocking anything coming in at me. And likewise, we kind of want to use the buckler to block incoming shots by targeting the sword with either the center of the buckler or the edge. So, a lot of times people just kind of post up in whatever guard they're going to use, and they're not really kind of following the sword. Because if I see the sword move, I kind of want to keep my buckler in that area, right? So, let's say his sword moves to my right side, I kind of want to come over more to my right. So coming over more here. This makes it easier that if he throws that shot, I'm not having to quickly jut over, but it makes it easier to intercept when I move in, and then I can throw my counter shot once I've blocked, or if I negated whatever shot he's going to do simply by relocating my buckler into his desired targeting area on me. Other things to think about is kind of reducing your targeting area by getting behind your shield. So something I see a lot in SCA and other things, and it's not across the board, but I do notice it, is that even if they're extended, they don't really have a coverage. I still have to go a lot further down, even though my cone of defense being that far out does help. But if I were to go from this standing position, just kind of lean forward just a little bit, I cover more of my area. So I go from this to this. That allows me to not only be able to kind of reach out, it removes one of my legs from targeting, but now I have way less room to be able to block. You oftentimes have to take into consideration that it's a lot harder to do depending on what you're wearing. My kit, especially if I'm wearing chainmail and everything else, doesn't really lend me very well to being crouched out behind my buckler, because I become very top-heavy and I get very, very feel relaxed. You also have to take into consideration, if you're going to crouch behind the buckler, you don't slouch behind it. If you weaken your spine and slouch, then you're going to have problems, because that's going to cause a lot of tension on your back. You want to hinge at your hips and just kind of have your center point of gravity from your shoulders right down to your ear. Whichever way you're going to go out, right? Whether it's your left knee or right knee, you want to kind of have this hip hinge, your back straight, buckler out, sword poised at the ready, throw your shots. Whatever shots that you can throw. And those are just basic concepts that I feel don't get looked at or taken consideration of. These are concepts that you can even use with a smaller strap shield. Whether or not you're using a smaller wankle or something like that, the more you kind of crouch behind it, the easier it is for you to protect yourself. You can also use, with a lot of people when they use the A-frame, whether they're fighting sword and shield, two-stick, whatever, like with Barbiche or the Crusader style, is this A-frame, because now, if you just have that one part out, now you can cover this. This also allows you to attack closer in than whether or not you have to come out here. I don't believe that you should solely rely on a single guard type, whether or not you're used to being an A-frame fighter, a boxing fighter, come in with the low guard, the tiger tail, old castle, new castle, however you want to do it, you need to be able to throw from every guard you can consider. We get in the SCA, I believe, too complacent with just the single guard. This single guard, whether it's boxer, A-frame, old castle, low, tiger tail, whatever it is, if you get too complacent in sitting in one guard, then it's going to be easier to find out what areas that I'm going to be able to have to throw at in order to overcome your guard. So sorry, I lost my train of thought. But that's just kind of the gist of it. Is you don't be comfortable just fighting from one guard. Learn how to fight from all guards. Particularly if you're using a smaller shield, like a buckler or a smaller theater or wankle, the Hungarian style punching shields that are very common in battling nations and the Bowhurt. Don't just get in one guard. Practice multiple guards. Understand that each one can kind of translate into the others. And of course, one that I didn't mention, the Iron Chicken. But yeah, on top of that also is like, don't get comfortable just fighting with one leg forward versus the other leg forward. A lot of people fight in the regular boxer stance, kind of like this. You know, you have your left leg forward, your shield leg forward. You know, it's covered by your shield. However, don't get used to just fighting with that one leg forward. Put the other leg forward. Stand in a more squared off stance. Stand in a more lean forward stance. Lean back stance. A more upright stance. You know, those kind of things. All those things will help regardless of whether or not you're fighting with a buckler, whether or not you're fighting with a regular shield, two-stick, single sword, or long sword, great weapon. You need to kind of holistically look at all of your possibilities and capabilities from every single angle. And that's just kind of the basics on the way I view the guards. Everybody's gonna have a different way. That's fine. I don't necessarily think there's one true way to fight. A lot of people will say different. I'm gonna say hooey to that. If you believe it's my way or the highway, I think that's a bad way to think, and you just haven't met that person who can defeat your way of fighting yet. It's just going to matter of time before somebody overcomes you. Approach it from a very scientific standpoint, figure out what works for you by testing out everything, take in everything you can, you know, use what's good. If it doesn't work for you, don't necessarily just get rid of it completely, but keep it in your back pocket, because you never know. If it doesn't work for you against some opponents, it may work for you against other opponents. Okay. We'll go over some basic shots. These are basic SDA shots. They're bread and butter shots. Everybody will teach you these first shots. There's, of course, the regular. I'm going to start from the boxer stance with my sword loaded on my shoulder. You have, of course, the basic flat snap. That's the one that's just going to hit their offside head. Boom. And I'm doing a very long return with this. You can come back and do several different types of returns. You know, long return, short return, your guarded return, your offside guarded return, blah, blah, blah. I'm mostly going to use long return because I'm feeling lazy about it today. So there's that. The other thing, that's the basic flat snap. It hits the head. It's thrown parallel to the shoulders or to the hips, and it doesn't necessarily need to hit the head. It can also hit the body. It can go and hit the leg. It just depends on how you throw. So you have your basic number one flat snap. Then we're going to go and look at other things. The secondary shots are the offside flat. I throw it a little weird because I throw it much like I'm throwing my regular flat snap. My elbow juts forward and I kind of come off to the other side instead of from that same shoulder. That one, once again, can be thrown high. If you lean into it, it can be thrown to the middle, or it can be thrown low. High, lean, middle, lean, crouch, low. You can throw from all those angles, and basics, it works. What we have next after that, I say, so you had flat snap, offside, learning to throw at all angles or all levels, both of those. Then we're going to have our wraps. Wraps can really only be done from your dominant side. You can't really wrap. You could throw kind of this thumb lead wrap kind of thing that can come up, pop over a shield or whatnot, but as for a true wrap, it's going to be thrown to the head, to the body, or to the leg. Head, body, leg. It helps if you really try to pull it back into your shot. One of the ways I was taught is like, don't just throw it out there and leave it and return. Try to pull through like you're going to throw back your blade into your own shield. And it starts off just like a flat snap. You come out, but then you rotate your hand, the palm of your hand down. Let me show you with my left hand. Comes out, but then you're rotating the palm of your hand down, and then you're doing your little pop, grabbing the sword, gripping the sword harder to get that pop right. Like that. Out, rotating that wrist, coming back. Out, rotate wrist, out, rotate wrist. And those are the basic shots. You have your onside flat snap, you have your offside snap, you have your wrap, thrown at all angles, all three of them. Then we're going to start looking at some of the other aspects. So when you throw these shots, like I said earlier, well, you can't throw out and just leave here, especially if they've thrown and they're throwing at your head and you throw at them. At that point, you can block here, but you need to be able to move forward with your shot when you block. That way, you're not leaving yourself overly exposed with your hand and your arm overly exposed. This allows you to be able to throw and make that cover, whereas now they could probably come in and hit you. But if you throw out here, everything's guarded. My arm's guarded, my hand's guarded. You don't really need to guard your hand in the SCA, but good practice to do that anyway, regardless of the discipline. But also, my head's guarded. They have to come over this so I can raise up. Head's guarded, my side's guarded. I can't leave my elbow out. I'm getting tired holding these positions out there like that. They can't really throw around. I'm here, boom. If I present more flat, they have to overcome more. If I present more with my face in my shield, they have to overcome more. If I present flat, they have to overcome less, but they still have to come past the boss and come out. And if they hit, I could just move my shield out into that. Make that guard. Another thing that when throwing a shot, particularly with the buckler, is if you throw a shot, regardless if it's more so if it's one of your, either your offside or your onside, depending on if you're fighting a lefty or a righty, you need to know that you can come out and cover their sword, cover their blade, something. One of the things I like to do with that, is like if they have a high guard here, I like to throw at their stick, right? At their stick. And by the time I feel them move, I'm going to come in and try to cover. Boom, boom, and boom. Get your smaller shield over their weapon. If you do that, they have to overcome your weapon now, or they have to overcome your shield. That's not going to be easy for them to do, especially when you're in here, you have all this room to move. You can maneuver all this. Yeah, you might have trouble getting around their shield, but as you're throwing here, they can't throw, right? They can't throw as you're covering. Boom, 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 boom. Trying to hit them where they can be hit, and they can't hit you back. very basic concept there. Let's talk about movement a little bit, because I kind of overglossed that in regards to talking about this really extended out stance. So, a lot of people will see this and be like, oh my God, you have so much of your forward body weight over your lead foot. Yeah, but here's the thing. I can switch that. I don't even need to take a step, mostly because concrete plays better with these shoes that have hobnails because it's just easier that way. But, boom, right? They throw a shot, boom, boom. I can stay pretty well. It's remembering to try to keep your center of gravity in such a way that you're still able to move easily. It takes a lot of conditioning and it is difficult, but it is doable. You have to work with not only your own body's mechanics in that instance, but you also have to work with, whatever you're wearing. Like I said, it's a lot harder for me in forward stances like this, especially when I've got everything I have on, to be able to move. Or at least not be able to move, but be able to keep my balance in such a way that I'm not going to get hurt. Learning how to step this way really changes that game. It's difficult and it's easier to do in the moment when you're fighting because you have adrenaline and everything, your blood's pumping and warmed up. But it is doable. And it's something that, regardless of whatever type of your armor, if you're planning on fighting with a buckler, that you should practice. Let's see, I covered rather sporadically quite a few things here, but what else? Covering with shots. There's several guards. Let's go over guards specifically with buckler. Of course, we talked about this very forward guard. We talked about the A-frame guard, right? There are other guards. Most of them are more transitional than others. I can maintain here and here a bit better, and not really have a lot of openings to give, especially if I'm very quick at blocking with my sword and shield. There are other guards though that are different. I like to kind of use. I kind of use this guard here because a lot of people, especially if I kind of pop up like that, they keep an eye on the point. They will throw a shot, boom, boom, but I just have to keep my distance back, right? I just have to walk, just move. Walk and move, right? But from here, I can throw low, right? And they're not necessarily very strong shots or anything like that, but I can also kind of pop, come under the shield. I can pop, throw low, and try to throw into the meat here, under their leg, make these little pops, right? From here I can throw a thrust. If they block that thrust, then I come low. There's that. There's the post guard. There's a lot of older fighters who I know really like to kind of sit here like this. Well, just do this. This is easy. This requires the least amount of energy. A lot of people are like, well, you can't really throw anything. I'm like, well, if I block here, I can throw here, take position over your sword here, and then come in with something else. I could do boom, 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 whatever you might consider that you're able to do. And it's really dependent on the situation. My brain can't really think of every single situation in which I might use that, but there are situations in which it's post guard. If you're tired, it's post guard for a little bit. Very low energy. My arms aren't really activated, moving around. I can stand here and I can guard basically most of my body, even with my shorter sword. I can guard it with just a simple twisting of my hips and my steps. Right? Some people might think like, oh, just throw his leg. Okay, just throw at his head. Just throw at his body. You have those options. It's like, oh, you block it, well then like you can't really do a return. And I'm like, well, I could just go here, right? Now I force you to block, right? Then I can come over and throw something else. It's just something to learn to do. Learn to use all of them. Learn to use all guards. So we did A-frame, we did boxer, A-frame. We did low guard here, push up guard. There's the under the hand guard, or under the armpit guard we see in I-33, which has its uses. You can kind of come in here and throw under, right? Let's say you're there in an A-frame. You throw here, boom, they block. They block, boom. You come up under here, you see they're coming in with a shot. Attack that shot, whether or not you're going to land a shot on their arm or something. Attack that shot. Come back around. Throw high. Throw at their head. You can do it. You are capable of it. It just takes practice. We have that underarm shot. I don't recommend sitting in this shot because it does leave you open everywhere else. A little easier if you're playing more forward, but if you're playing slightly reserved and you're tired and you're here, don't really rest here that much unless you are out of range. So that's the under the shoulder. Of course, the tiger tail. I can come in here and throw really, really quick wraps. Probably very soft wraps because I'm not really cocked and loaded like I would want to be. I can do that. I can also throw up into here. I can throw a thrust up. Other ones is just kind of long point guard here. I like to do that, especially if somebody else is playing long pointed guard. The long pointed guard with me is I like to throw, like to get in here, kind of play with it. Because if I can contact your sword, not let anybody ever contact your sword. Because if I can contact your sword, I can slip it. I can push, slip. Or if you try to move, try to make a thrust, I just replace my contact or bind with the bind with my shield. Boom. There is one I like that doesn't work as well, I'll admit, but it is fun. It's playing with my sword behind my shield because I can come in press low, press high, strike, you know, strike, however you want it. Just keeping that point behind the shield, you can't see it. Boop, here it is. Boop, there it is. Boop, there it is. Boop, there it is. Boop. Just whatever you can do. So those are probably sound like John Clemens. I think that's crazy. Do what you can. Learn the guards. Play with the guards. Figure out which ones work for which opponents and which situations, and just have fun with it. Condition yourself to whatever type of shield you're using, whatever type of sword you're using, whatever type of harness you're deciding to wear. Because even if you have light harness, if you're not ready for it, you're still going to wear yourself out. You have to condition your body to fight. You can't just jump out and be like, I'm just going to fight, go for a run, you know, swing a stick at a tree, maybe not a tree, at a pole, at a pelt if you have one, or even just do regular shadow stuff. Focus on footwork. Learn how to move behind your smaller shield. Keep your smaller shield aimed at your opponent. There should be an invisible string constantly attached to either your opponent's guardrail or to the basket of your opponent's weapon. Because if you're here and you just sit here, they can throw around you. They will throw around you. You can just sit there. You need a block. You need to come over. If you get deep in and you're fighting a guy and he is within kissing range of you, weird. Where I use kissing range as a metaphor there. But oh well, I'll run with it. If he's in kissing range of you, track his sword. Learn how to track his sword. Learn how to track his movement. Small movements. Even if he throws a little bit of a fake, right? Don't over block it, because you over block it, you're gonna get open. If he throws a fake, just drop it a little. He might have like a half second to actually hit you, but you know, you'd probably rather have a chance to block it if it's not a fake, if it's not a feint, than him just throwing the shot and getting past you in general. Track your opponent. Try not to fall for feints. You don't have to over block, even if it isn't a feint. Don't overblock. Don't overblock it, particularly with feints. But yeah, hopefully that was coherent enough for most of you to understand what I'm trying to show, what should work. And yeah, hopefully y'all learned something. If any of you are maybe a little more knowledgeable than me at either SCA fighting or human fighting or whatever, yeah, call me out, tell me I'm wrong. I want to learn as much as I also want to teach people. That's what's good of making this video, if people are just going to constantly take my word for it. Yeah, give me critiques. All I ask is be civil. Don't be a dick. Don't just be like, oh, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about, and then not actually give a critique. Be like, hey, you're doing it wrong. This is how you should do it. This is how I do it. This is how it should work. It normally works for me, or this is how I learn. Blah blah blah. Critique me. Don't critique me. Learn from this video. Help me learn from this video. But yeah, thank you very much. Hopefully this inspires some of you to pick up a small sword and a small shield, and maybe play around a little bit. Even if you're playing with a longer sword than I am, maybe you will learn some things and will be able to do some things. Thank you very much. Yeah, hopefully people will show up before too long, and I won't be out here just by myself talking to myself. Thank you. You all have a good day.